So today, we're taking a look at probably two of the most popular pieces of tech gear when it comes to productivity. Hey everyone, it's Nenad, and this is the Logitech MX Mechanical Mini and the MX Master 3S. Before we get started, I just want to note that I linked both of these products in the description, and I included timestamps in the video. Just in case you're interested in only one of these products, you can jump straight to its section. And be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to help with the YouTube algorithm. Inside the box, we of course have the mechanical mini keyboard, and now that it's in my hands, it feels quite a bit lighter than I expected, but it still feels really solid. There's also the USB receiver that you can use to connect the keyboard to your computer if you don't have or you don't want to use Bluetooth. And you've got a nice high quality USB-C cable for charging, a few instruction manuals, and that's it. That's everything that you get in the box. Now let's put all this to the side and talk a little bit about the design. The keyboard itself actually looks really nice. It's got sort of a two-tone color scheme with more of a lighter gray in the middle and a darker gray on the outside. And by the way, Logitech calls this their graphite colorway. But if you decide to go with the MX Mechanical for Mac, you can also get the pale gray colorway, which looks like this, and I'll get into this more a little later. Now jumping to the top, where there's some minimal Logitech branding here in the middle, a battery indicator light, the on-off switch, and of course there's a USB-C port for charging. If you flip the keyboard over to the back, there's these 2 feet that you can pull out, and that'll just give you a little bit more of an incline if you prefer some height when you're typing. Now the profile is very similar to the first edition MX keys, and you really get most of the extra height of this mechanical keyboard in the switches and the keys. I actually prefer a keyboard with a lower profile because I can type really comfortably with my hands just laying directly on the desk. When I use a higher profile keyboard, I usually need a wrist pad to elevate my hands up, and I don't feel like I need a pad with this keyboard. So let's jump into some dimensions real quick. The measurements of this keyboard come in at 12.3 inches wide, 5.17 inches deep, 1.02 inches tall, and it weighs in at 21.58 ounces, which again feels fairly light, and it really helps in terms of portability. Now the design of the keys definitely have that mechanical keyboard inspiration, and if you're coming from a keyboard with flat keys like the Apple Magic Keyboard or the original MX keys, this is going to be a very different typing experience. You can actually take them off, and you'll see that I went with the brown switches, which Logitech calls their tactile quiet switches. But there are a total of 3 switches you can choose from, and each one has their own distinct feeling and sound. You could go for the brown tactile switches that I have, the red linear switches, or the blue clicky switches. And here's how they're all supposed to sound. Now let's move on to another feature, which is the backlight that's activated with a proximity sensor, which you might love or you might hate. The way it works is that the backlight will automatically turn on when there's motion detected above the keys. So just place your hands over the keyboard and the backlight will turn on. Now if the sensors don't detect any motion, the backlight will automatically turn off until the sensors are triggered again, and this is so you can get the most out of the battery life. I'm honestly not the biggest fan of this, and if you ask me, I would prefer to at least have the option to keep the backlight on at all times, or even just having the ability to increase the amount of time before the backlight turns off. Real quick, I want to touch on the battery in this keyboard, and I have to say it's absolutely amazing. So with the backlight on, you can get up to 15 days on a full charge, but with the backlight off, you can get up to 10 months on a full charge. So essentially, you won't have to charge this keyboard for a whole year, which is insane. One thing that makes this keyboard super easy to use are these 3 keys at the top, and I'll show you how they work. So you can have this keyboard connected to 3 separate devices, and to switch which device you're connected to, just hit the 1, 2, or 3 key, and it instantly connects you to the device that's paired to that number. It's such a seamless experience, and it really takes the hassle out of constantly unpairing and pairing the keyboard to your devices. Now let's get on to the next productivity device, the MX Master 3S mouse. Opening up the box, we of course have the mouse sitting here on top, the USB receiver, just like with the keyboard, a USB-C cable for charging, and a few documents. So I actually ended up choosing the graphite colorway for the 3S, and if you want to switch it up, there's also a pale gray and a black. But this graphite color matches the gray tones of the MX mechanical keyboard really well. Now this mouse is definitely on the bulkier side, so if you have smaller hands, this particular size might not work for you. But for me, it really fits my hand well, and there's also a really nice grip to it, which feels great, and it adds a little bit of texture so it doesn't feel like your hand is slipping around. So the two things that make this mouse stand out from the rest of the competition are the buttons and the scroll wheel. Let's first take a look underneath, and you'll see the on-off switch and this little button here which you can push and it'll move you through the different numbers. So you can have this mouse connected to 3 different devices, and it'll connect you to the device that's associated with that number. Now on top, you have your typical left and right click, and in the center here, that's the wheel mode shift button. So what this does is it'll switch between having the scroll move smoothly or move more like a ratchet. As far as the left and right clicks, one thing that's different between the Master 3 and the Master 3S is that the clicks on the 3S are 90% quieter. On the 3, the sound is way more clicky, but on the 3S, you can barely even hear it. The clicks are also a bit softer on the 3S, but I actually prefer it over the Master 3 clicks. So moving on to the side of the mouse where my favorite feature is, and that's the horizontal scroll wheel. What this does is it'll allow you to scroll horizontally, so left and right. And for me or anyone else who's a content creator, you can use it to scroll through your timeline in programs like Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro. Now right below the scroll, there's the forward and back buttons, and down on the thumb pad, there's the gesture button. This gesture button is meant to be held down while moving the mouse in a certain direction to perform a specific function. So for me, the way I program the gesture button is I can push the gesture button and move the mouse left and it'll switch desktops, and of course I can swipe back. Also, if I push the gesture button and move the mouse up, it'll show me all of my windows that are open. And the absolute best part is that you can program all of the buttons to do so many different things, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Now the max speed scroll on this mouse has to be the best scroll wheel in the industry. It's actually an electromagnetic scroll wheel, which means you can scroll 1,000 lines per second and you'll honestly barely even hear it. It's really amazing to see it in action, and it's super useful for someone who works with big databases or even computer coding. Before we get into how you can customize these devices, I quickly want to mention the battery life in the 3S. So it has quick charging capabilities, which will get you up to 3 hours of use from only 1 minute of charging. And on a full charge, you'll have enough power for up to 70 days of usage. So the battery life on the keyboard and the mouse is just insane. So once you download the app, just open it up, and this is where you can do all of your customizing. If I wanted to customize my 3S, I'll click on the mouse and it'll open up all of the settings. You can change what each button does, and if you don't like the factory setting, just change it to what you prefer. You can also customize the mouse to have certain settings for different applications. Just go to the top here and pick your application, and it'll allow you to customize from there. The same goes with the keyboard. Just select the device and go to town. You can even change the backlight effects, which is pretty cool to play with. So if you want to get your hands on these devices, what's it going to cost you? Well, the mini version of the MX Mechanical retails for $149, and if you want to add a dedicated number pad, you'll have to go for the standard version, which will cost you $169. Now for the MX Master 3S mouse, you can pick one of these up for $99. Even though they're a bit on the pricier side of things, especially the mouse, I really do think they're worth the money. Just make sure you're going to make the most out of all of their features. This productivity combo is really geared toward professionals or for people that find themselves working at their desks for hours on end and just want to enhance their experience doing that. But let me know what you think about this combo down in the comments. Do you think it's worth the price tag? I'm curious to know. And that's the end of the video, so thank you for sticking with me all the way till the end. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more review videos like this one. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.